Welcome everybody to the video today. I thought we would talk about something that's actually a very common challenge. If a mom is experiencing, I should say more that the baby would be experiencing this, it could be the baby is extremely colicky, lots of diarrhea or green stool, baby could choke or gulp at the breast, lots of hiccuping, they could be gaining weight very quickly. And so a mom might be like, okay, well, the baby seems to be getting enough milk, so what's the problem? Is it something that I'm eating? Some other symptoms that are more for mom-based would be mom has a lot of feelings of fullness, possibly plug ducts or mastitis. She could have intense pain at the letdown or when the milk first initially comes down and releases. This could be caused by the force of, it's called the reflex, so the letdown reflex, but it's basically like the force of ejection out of the nipple, and sometimes when that is very strong, the mom can feel intense pain. So those are some of the symptoms mom might be experiencing. And like I said, the baby, hiccups, colic, gassiness. You think colic and gassiness are the same, but remember, colic would be more of a chronic issue where it's happening constantly, it never goes away, and it's also a little more severe, more painful than just gassiness. Sometimes gassiness is just that, it's just some extra air, and but gassiness could happen and it not be colic, so that's kind of why I brought that up. Another big thing is being very fussy at the breast. Maybe they're feeding and they pull off, and they go back on, and they get upset, and they pull off, they pull at the breast. A lot of these are symptoms of oversupply of milk. And so when you think of oversupply, you might think, okay, well, that's not really a problem, because I would much rather have too much milk than to have not enough milk. But with oversupply, you can have a whole new host of problems, which is what you're experiencing. You might want to know why. Why do I have an oversupply? Why, what is that? What does that mean? And why does it cause all these problems? Oversupply is a combination of things. It's a combination of an overactive letdown, that force of ejection that is very strong. And it can, like I said before, it can sometimes be painful. Another thing that it is a lot of times an imbalance in the foremilk and the hindmilk. To explain the foremilk and the hindmilk and how that's imbalanced is, on average, say a mom has on one breast a half of an ounce of the thin milk, the thin sweet milk, which is the foremilk, and she has 2 ounces of the fattier milk. Now, oversupply would be, instead of a half of an ounce of foremilk, the mom has an ounce of foremilk, and she has 3 ounces of hindmilk. So now that baby's taken in 4 ounces, and if she moves the baby to the other side, the baby's going to suck a little bit on that breast, and they're going to get just the hindmilk, or just the foremilk, and most likely get full by that point. And if that's happening every feed, the baby's going to be getting way more foremilk than they need. And this is also kind of like upsetting your balance of what you should have of foremilk and hindmilk. So now I hope that's kind of clear enough. If not, feel free to message me, comment, and I'll try to clarify it if I need to. I will also leave a reference of the article that I'm going to pull this information from, so that you can also go back and look at it as well. So those are the causes, the symptoms, signs of oversupply. Again, a mom is not going to type in oversupply of milk, because in her mind, she may be thinking she doesn't have enough milk. Or she may be thinking that, am I doing something wrong because my baby's showing all these different signs? So a mom isn't going to type in oversupply, but that is actually what we're going to talk about, is oversupply. If they're experiencing these signs, it could just be 2 or 3, it could be all of them. If they're experiencing this, then most likely you have an oversupply problem. And I'm going to give you some tips on reducing your supply safely and effectively so that you don't lose your milk supply. The first tip would be to breastfeed on just one breast. Don't offer both breasts at a feed. Most babies can get a full feeding on one breast. You don't even have to offer the second breast. And you want the baby to feed at least 15 to 20 minutes. If they only feed on that one breast for 5 minutes and then they fall asleep, stick with that breast until you've done at least 15 to 20 minutes of a feed. Another thing I want to mention, if you have a baby who fusses a lot, they're more of a comfort feeding baby, you can also just within a 2-hour period breastfeed on that one breast. Because if the baby's a comfort feeder and they're feeding constantly, if you're constantly switching sides, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, or whatever, they're constantly getting both sides, they could be getting not just an oversupply of milk, but also an oversupply of the thinner milk, which causes more of that gassiness and the colic and fussiness, really, because they are hungry more and they're not getting that fattier milk, which makes them feel full. It is normal, though, for a baby to feed between 1 to 3 hours because breast milk is only in the system for an hour and a half. So if the baby is feeding every hour and a half to 2 hours, that's typically a normal pattern. But if you're finding you're feeding them every 30 minutes, every 45 minutes, every hour, constantly, not just like a cluster type for a certain amount of hours, but constant, then this is, something that you can try. Also, another thing that you can do is alternate nursing positions and think of it as gravity. Now, we talked about the mom's ejection being overactive. So sometimes by laying back and having the baby sitting up or across your chest laying and you're kind of in a laid back position, that can help like the force of the milk so that it's not as strong. And gravity just kind of pulls it back a little bit. And so you can try alternating nursing positions to see if that helps with the overactive letdown, if you feel that that's your problem, that your letdown is strong. And this typically is the gulping and the choking because they're getting a lot of milk all at once. So that ejection or that letdown is putting a lot of milk into them at one point. And so it can be overwhelming to the baby, to you, and it can cause that fussiness and the pulling off of the breast. It can cause the gulping and the choking and that kind of thing. Another thing I want to add, if you're nursing only on one breast, you probably are going to have soreness on the other one at first. So you don't want to empty that breast. You can pump it just enough to feel comfortable, but not to empty it. You also want to avoid pumping if you're pumping to build a supply of milk in your freezer. But during this time period, we actually recommend to avoid pumping because we don't want to send the message to the body to keep making all this milk. Once we establish the amount of milk that the body should be making at the intervals that it should, once we get that established, then you can start back up on your pumping routine. Another little tip, if you notice that ejection seems to be your problem and the baby's really struggling with the choking and the gulping, you can hand express or even pump just a little bit till you get the first letdown, which basically is within that first 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Once you get that initial letdown, if you can kind of do that into a cup or something where you can save that milk, but once you feel that letdown, release, and you got some of that milk, then you can put the baby on. The baby doesn't have to deal with the force of that ejection in their mouth. Another good point or tip is to burp often, especially if you have a baby that spits up a lot, again, choking or gulping. A baby that is spitting up, as long as they're gaining well, it could just be that they're getting too much milk out of feeding. Again, it could be the oversupply issue. If it's not harming them in the sense that they're gaining weight well and everything, and they're thriving, then you don't have to worry about the spitting up. But if they have signs of illness with it, the biggest thing is that they're not gaining weight, they're not going through diapers. That's the sign that you need right there to go see your doctor. And yes, oversupply is great in the sense that you know you have enough milk, but it can cause, like I said, all these other symptoms that really is a big challenge for moms because the first thing she thinks, or feels is that she's doing something wrong. There's something wrong with the baby. Mom's not eating right. Something she's eating that's affecting the baby. So there's a lot of reasons. Anyway, I hope this video answers your questions. If you have any more questions or you have a suggestion on a future video, please feel free to comment below. And I will see you guys in my next video. Have a great day.